Welcome to Hidden History of Rock and Roll with your host, Tiffany Scott. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hidden History of Rock and Roll.
Hello, and welcome to Hidden History of Rock and Roll. I'm your host, Tiffany Scott. If you are new to my podcast, I do a deep dive into the behind-the-scenes stories of rock's greatest legends, how they came to be, how the records got played, and maybe some dirty secrets, if we are lucky. This is your all-access backstage pass. Today, I welcome a music industry veteran. He worked at Mercury Records, GRC, Arista, Elecktra, Chrysalis, Island, IRS Records, and Deaf American.
Couldn't keep a job.
You have a large list of artists you worked with, most notably Deep Purple, Allman Bros, Emerson Lake Palmer, Thin Lizzy, Rush, Graham Parker, 10cc, Alan Parsons, Motley Crue, Jethro Tull, Billy Idol, Huey Lewis, Slaughter, Pat Benatar, Black Crowes, and so many more. Please welcome to the show, Mike Bone.
Hey.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Good.
So good to be here with you in person.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, we've known each other for quite some time.
Yeah, a really long time. I was friends with your dad when he was on FM 100 in Memphis in the 70s, 72, 73, something like. I worked for a concert promoter in Atlanta named Alex Cooley, and we promoted concerts in Memphis. We did the Allman Brothers Band. We did Ike and Tina Turner at the Mid-South Coliseum, and we did enough shows that I had an apartment in Memphis at 1299 Benton. I don't know how I can remember that address, but that was the address of the apartment. And but your dad was on at night, and so he was the night jock, and I was the concert promoter, and so I came to know him and hang out with him and your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And you?
Yeah, I was just a baby.
Yep.
That was going to be one of my first questions is how did you guys get to know each other? But
Well, that's how.
Yeah, and you promoted concerts there in Memphis. What ones can you remember?
The infamous one was the Ike and Tina Turner one.
Yeah.
Because disagreements between Ike and Tina. And there was Tina never participated in any of the promotion. The band was on stage, her car would show, and she would get on stage and perform. Then she would leave the building, and the band would still be playing. And that was it.
Wow.
You never saw her again. But there was a party at the Rivermount Holiday Inn, and two parties. There was the upstairs party for the Black community, WDIA,
Mm-hmm.
The radio station, and I forget the Black newspaper. The Memphis Inquirer was maybe the Black newspaper there. And then there was the downstairs party for the FM 100 and the Popular Tunes and the River City News, sort of the hippie community there. And so yeah, and Ike worked the elevator. He was upstairs drinking beer and whiskey with the R&B crowd, and downstairs smoking pot and doing all sorts of things with the FM 100 crowd. So
Wow.
Ike really wanted his records played on rock radio. So yeah, but anyway, we did the Allman Brothers. I think we did ELP up there. Maybe Deep Purple, the band.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Ike and Tina Turner is huge, and I know Terry Manning had talked about working with them at Ardent.
Yeah, that's a possibility. They worked in the studio with them.
Yeah.
Ike was an interesting guy.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah. I was never a big drug user, right? But the first time I ever did cocaine was with Ike Turner.
Oh my God.
I figure if you're going to do cocaine, you might as well start with a pro, right?
Right?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, never did a lot of cocaine.
So let's start at the beginning. And how did you get into the music industry, and what was your first job?
I started when I was in high school. I was at my friend Robbie Wells' house, and his little brother Stevie rolls up on a bicycle. I said, he introduced me. He said, my brother's in a band, and they're going to practice. And I wound up managing a high school rock band. And I think the reason I was the manager is because my dad had a pickup truck, and we could put all the equipment in the truck and haul it to various roller skating rinks around Central Georgia,
Right.
and swimming pools. And the singer of that band was Ronnie Hammond. He and I went to high school together, and he wound up being the singer for the Atlanta rhythm section. And so I went to college and graduated from college, and then I worked for a concert promoter in Atlanta, Alex Cooley. I had worked on the second Atlanta Pop Festival, and then I finished college in December of 1970, and I went to work for Alex in January of 71. And we did concerts in Atlanta, Mobile, Memphis, Charlotte. So anyway, I traveled around the South a lot. I used to drive back and forth to Memphis all the time. It was crazy. I was born in Albany. I was raised in Macon. I went to school in Athens, and I worked in Atlanta.
Okay.
So all over Georgia. But,
All over.
Yeah, but when I worked for Alex, I lived in Atlanta.
Okay. And that's how you got your break.
Well, yeah, I worked for Alex for 3 or 4 years. We did a lot of concerts. I mean, a lot of concerts. And then I worked at a rock club in Atlanta called Richards, a famous rock club. As a matter of fact, your dad talked about Richards when Al Cooper did his showcase for the 3 acts. I was at Richards nightclub. I was at that show.
At the Leonard Skinner show?
Yeah. Leonard Skinner, Mose Jones, and I forget the other band. And then I worked for a small record company in Atlanta called GRC Records. And GRC was owned by a guy named Mike Thievis. And Thievis's claim to fame was that he was the largest purveyor of pornographic material in America. So he had these warehouses full of books and videos. And this is when videos were, the porn business was moving from film clips to VHS cassettes. And you could go into, I've been into these warehouses, and they'd have these slave machines duplicating these videos, and a little monitor up there with all sorts of like, whoa, what's that?
Oh my God.
But he had a record company, started a record company called GRC, General Recording Company. And he had a great, he built an amazing studio called the Sound Pit. And Ted Nugent recorded at the Sound Pit.
Wow.
Yeah. And Tom Werman, the record producer, used it a lot. And so anyway, he signed Red, White, and Bluegrass, one of my favorite bluegrass bands. He signed Oleta Holloway, and he signed Sammy Johns. And we had a hit with Sammy Johns called Chevy Van, which went to number 2. Anyway, Mike got arrested for all sorts of stuff.
Pornography?
Well, interstate transportation. He started with interstate transportation of pornographic material, and he was arrested and sentenced to jail for that. But when he left to go to jail for that, he said, "Look, I'm going to probably be out in a year. I'll come back, and we're going to continue with the record company." But once they got him in jail, he was an arson charge and a murder charge, and I don't think he was ever convicted of murder. But
My goodness.
He was always nice to me. He was always
This just turned into a murder mystery show.
Yeah, exactly. He was a character. He was a character. He escaped from jail. He was on trial for arson in somewhere, Cincinnati, Kentucky, someplace like that. and he was a trustee at the local jail. They had him staying in a little local jail. He's a very charismatic guy, and he said that they would let him wash the police cars and send him down to the corner store to pick up Cokes and donuts for the police and everything. He said one day they sent me down to the store. He said I was on an airplane out of there before they realized I was missing.
Gosh.
So he was on the lam in Europe for over a year.
I guess the GRC went away.
Yeah, GRC about a year after he was in jail. They closed the label. And then I got a call from a guy named Cliff Bernstein, and he was working at Mercury in Chicago, and he said, would you like to come and interview for a job? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he said, well, be here tomorrow. And I said, look, I'm unemployed. He goes, there's a prepaid ticket for you at the Atlanta airport. So I flew to Chicago and interviewed and got the job as the national rock, well, what do they call it? The rock promotion guy, the album promotion guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where you went after that.
Yeah, well, I went to Mercury because Mercury at the time was a major label based in Chicago. It was the only one. Everybody else was in New York and L.A. And that's where I got to work on Rush and Thin Lizzy and Graham Parker.
Who was the first artist you worked with and your experience with them?
When I got to Mercury, it was in the fall of the year. I can't remember the year, but I didn't have any records to work on. And so I was looking for things in the catalog to work on. And I always worked late at night until about 7. And then I'd go home because the traffic in Chicago was a nightmare. And I heard this song on WXRT called Wild One. And it was by Thin Lizzy. And we happened to have had the record. It was off the Fighting album. And I called the jock on the air. I think it was Mitch Michaels was on the air. I said, you're playing this song? And he goes, yeah. He said, every time I play it, the phones ring. He said, I don't know why they didn't work this song. They'd worked another song from the record. And so I said, well, will you keep playing it? He goes, yeah. So I went to my head of sales at the time, a great guy named Harry Losk. And I said, look, there's something going on with this record here. He said, yeah, we're selling 10 or 15 records a week here in Chicago because of this airplay. So I went and reserviced the record to KC in St. Louis, KY102 in Kansas City, WLPX in Milwaukee. I forget the station in Minneapolis. They didn't have the record anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rockford station. And I went to each one of them and I said, look, I'm going to rework this record. And would you play this song? And so all of them added except for the guy in Dak Hammer in Minneapolis. He didn't do it. But my sales guy, Harry, went to each market and we did a little advertising and put some records in the store. And all of a sudden the records started selling, not a lot, not thousands of records, but 500-600 records a week, which record was dead before that. I mean, it was selling 15 records a week in Chicago.
That's a big jump.
That's a big jump. And so I was like, great. The problem was it was in the fall and Christmas was upon us and everybody was putting records out because normally in the record business, you do the 40% of your business in the last 25% of the year. So everyone's trying to get that airplay. So it was tough to get it on the air. And the record was old and the band had a new record that was coming out in January, February, I forget. And so I couldn't push it off into next year because I had a new record coming out. But I knew I had a solid base of people that were going to add the new record. So we had this new Thin Lizzy album coming out, Jailbreak. And so I knew I had this core of stations, Chicago, Milwaukee, Rockford, Kansas City, St. Louis, that were going to come out of the box on this thing. So I went to the rest of the stations in the Midwest, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cincinnati. One thing about doing national promotion, you learn geography pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. When you've been to KFMH and Muscatine, you've been pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
So anyway, I went to all these stations and I knew I set them up. And when the Jailbreak record came out, we had the hit, The Boys Are Back in Town. And the Midwest came in solid. I mean, rock solid. And then a lot of the other stations came. It was a great record for the time, and we got our normal group of stations up and down the East Coast and in the South and Texas and the West Coast. But the Midwest was rock solid. I mean, it was like black, wall to wall. even Minneapolis, Tack Hammer came in.
Wow.
So the record blew up, and the band, they came and toured, but you want to know as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then Lizzy was basically snake bit. There was always something that happened. They were supposed to come and be on tour with somebody, I don't know who. And the night before they were going to get on the airplanes, there was a club in London called the Speakeasy, and a bar fight broke out, and the guitar player put his hand up, and some guy with a beer bottle cut his hand, and
Oh my God.
yeah. So Brian Robertson. And so he couldn't do the tour, and so they got someone else to play guitar on the tour. So it might have been Gary Moore. I don't know if it was Gary. There was a series of different guitar players. I love the band, and I love their manager, Chris Marson, Chris O'Donnell. They were fantastic to work with. But there was always,
Mm-hmm.
something like that going on,
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I remember, even though they were no longer on the label, I was no longer at the label. I stayed in close contact with their managers, Chris Marson, Chris O'Donnell. And I called Chris Marson. I said, well, how are things going? And he goes, well, Phil's gone in for the clinic for the weekend to dry out, and I said, well, how long is this going to take? He said, 3 days. He said, I'll be out on Monday. And he died over the weekend. So,
Oh my gosh.
So it's a real tragedy.
Yeah.
The band continues on. I mean, I see them touring around with various other people in the role of Phil Lynott. But
yeah, I think we have a lot of fan questions.
Yeah,
at the end for Thin Lizzy. But that's a great story about working, with your first band.
That was the first, that was the first big. Well, Sammy John's Chevy Van was a hit single, but he wasn't a rock act. He was a top 40 act, and a total asshole too. But
No, that's not fun.
Yeah, but no, Thin Lizzy were great. Phil particularly was, he was always beyond friendly.
So let's talk about a story that you shared with me briefly with Metallica, signing Metallica. Let's tell that story.
So Metallica was signed by an A&R. First of all, there was a new regime, a new management at Elecktra Records. Bob Krasnow had been doing A&R at Warner Brothers and been very successful at signing a lot of sort of R&B-ish bands, well, R&B bands at WB. And they gave him Elecktra, and he moved Elecktra to New York. And there was an A&R person there named Michael Alago, great guy. And he went after Metallica, and they were actually managed by a guy at the time named Johnny Zazula. And when they signed to Johnny's label, I think his label called Z Records or Crazed Records. It had the Z in it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael made an agreement to sign Metallica, and who at the time, but they were going to be managed by Cliff Bernstein and Peter Mitch. There's that name, Cliff Bernstein again, right? And so the deal was basically done. And on a Friday, Bob Krasnow, and Friday morning, he says, hey, get Cliff and Peter to come over. I want to talk to them. And he reneged on the deal. He said, this is not the business I want to be in. I don't want to be in the Metallica business. And Cliff, who was and still is a friend of mine, he came out of Bob's office and came into my office and said, you got to get out of here. He said, that guy's crazy.
No.
And so I was like, oh. I said, what happened? He goes, he's not going to do the deal. And I was like, what? And that was on Friday. And then I talked to Bob, and he goes, "No," he said, that's not the direction of the label. It's not where I want to go." So I was like, "Holy cow!" Because that was my stock and trade. I liked rock records, then Lizzy, Crocus, Rush, and that's what was being played on Album Rock Radio at the time. So that was on a Friday. Monday morning, Bob Krasner comes into my office, closes the door to my office, and he goes, "I've made a tremendous mistake." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Please get Cliff and Peter to come back over here." I go, "Bob, you dropped their band 3 days ago. I just asked him to come over here." So I called Cliff. I said, can you come over here? And he goes, "What? We're going to get dropped again?" So they go into Bob's office, and Cliff and Peter come out with the biggest smiles I've ever seen on their face. And Bob came out, and he said, he proclaimed Metallica the new street opera. That's a direct quote. And Metallica was the number one priority at the label. And I never got the details on what he gave them to start the deal up again, but I would be willing to bet it was some significant cash, marketing guarantees, and advance money.
Probably a better deal than you would have gotten.
Much better deal.
Yeah.
I can based on the smiles on Cliff and Peter's face coming out of there, because they're in for 20%,
Right.
So, but anyway, at one point, the Metallica catalog was one of the most valuable catalogs in the entire Warner Elektra Atlantic family. I mean, it was huge, and they're still a huge band to this day.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the New Street Opera deal.
That is funny. The New Street Opera,
Yep.
Metallica.
Yep. Yep.
Did you go forward and work with them for how many years? Or
Oh yeah, I was at Elektra for 4 years, and we released, I don't know, 3 Metallica records, and I left Elektra and went to Chrysalis.
Mhm.
It's funny because I was at Chrysalis, and Metallica and Jethro Tull. This is so embarrassing. Metallica and Jethro Tull had been nominated for the best metal album, and Metallica was on the Grammy show, and it was at the venue here in LA. It was a small room, like 5,000 seater, and so I talked to Ian Anderson, and I said, Metallica's on the show, and they're nominated, and and he was actually nominated for a song called Steel Monkey, which if you go back and listen to that record, the Rock Island album that it came from, it was a metallic sounding song. I mean, it was fit, but the idea that Jethro Tull would compete with Metallica is, and so I advised Ian to not come. And the night of the Grammys, Metallica played. They go on stage. The winner of the Grammy is Jethro Tull.
No.
And the audience was like, "Boo!" And I was like, "Oh."
God.
I had to call Ian the next morning and say, well, the good news is you won the Grammy. And so I said, then the bad news is I told you not to come to the show. He goes, to his credit, Ian is very big into salmon farming up in Scotland off the Isle of Skye. And he said, well, to be honest with you, I couldn't have come. Even if I said I was going to come, I couldn't have come. I said, why is that? He said, I have this pen full of salmon that broke free from its mooring and is floating out in the ocean. He said, there's several $100,000 worth of salmon out there.
God.
He said, I had to focus on that. I couldn't have come just to walk on stage and get a Grammy.
Well, that's an incredible story.
So embarrassing.
Oh, please. I don't know if it's embarrassing as much as it's a story now we get to share.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Embarrassing. Warts and everything.
Exactly. Exactly. And then did you ever tour with Metallica?
Tour with them. I've ridden on the bus with them a couple of shows. The same with Rush. I did the first Rush tour of Europe twice. I went to every city prior to them going there. Sheffield, Manchester, Birmingham, London, Stockholm. I forget the others, but I would go and get the record company to spend money, which at the time was posters. There was most of these countries, like in Sweden, they didn't have commercial radio. They had one radio station, and no chance of Rush getting airplay there. But the thing was to try and convince him to put up posters for the show.
Really?
And I was able to do that. And then I went back and did the tour with the band and take them into record stores and have local people interview them and stuff like that. So
I'm a huge Rush fan.
You never met nicer guys than the three guys in Rush. And the idea that Neil is no longer with us is like not good. It's funny. When Neil was still alive, I took my son to see them. They played at the old Universal Amphitheater, which I think is now a ride or something like that.
Ridiculous.
And so we had backstage passes and everything. It's funny. My son's a cellist, right? And his cello teacher was on tour with Rush playing in a string section. And so we're downstairs. His name is Jacob Sekeli. And we're downstairs having dinner with Rush's manager, Ray Daniels. And Jacob Sekeli is sitting over to one side, and he looks over and he goes, "What on earth are you doing here?"
Wow.
And anyway, Rush at the time was very protective of their pictures. If you wanted a picture with Rush, that's fine. They would take the picture for you, and they had a backdrop, and so you took the picture in front of the backdrop, and then they gave you a card, and you signed online, and you could download the picture.
Okay.
Which makes a lot of sense, My son Ari and I were standing in line, and the handicapped people get to go up first, the people in the wheelchairs and everything. And then we go up, and it was Getty and Neil, Getty and Alex. Neil didn't come out, and now we know why it didn't come out. And we get ready to take the picture, and I said, "You guys have no idea who I am, do you?" And they said, "No, who are you?" And I said, "I'm Mike Bone." And they were like, "Oh my God," They were big hugs and everything. And they were like, to my son, they were like, "He was one of the first guys at the record company, blah, 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 blah." And so anyway, we took the picture and went off to the side and in this backstage area. And then when they got done with the pictures, Alex came over and spent 10 minutes talking to my son's a guitar player. And he's talking to him about what kind of guitar do you have and what strings do you use on it and what kind of amp are you doing. And it was just beyond cordial.
Wow.
I mean, it was so great.
That is nice.
Yeah, they were, and the idea that Neil, checked out.
Well, just to backtrack, just for people who maybe they don't know the story behind Neil and why he wouldn't come out and do meet and greets. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I was never told why, but he had cancer, and he wore this kind of skull cap kind of hat all the time. I'm assuming he had some surgery or something like that. Funny, I didn't know until the last few years of his life that he lived in Santa Monica.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah, he had a lot of pain in his life. He lost a wife, and he lost a daughter, and then he changed Cosmic Address, right?
Yeah, I mean, and then he found love again.
Yes.
And just
He was
terrible.
a big motorcycle rider too. He would, and after he lost his wife and his daughter, I was told that he got on a motorcycle and rode around for like 2 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then met this woman here and fell in love and,
Mm-hmm.
had another at bat,
Mm-hmm. Had another whole life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they made an impression upon so many people. Their sound was so huge from 3 people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Neil
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was, talk to any drummer in the world, they'll talk to you about Neil,
Right.
I mean, he was the guy, But it's interesting. I saw enough Rush shows that I knew when the flashpots were going to go off. So, and the meek shall inherit the earth. And close my eyes.
Oh, right.
Boom.
I don't think I ever got to see them live.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
I must have seen them 30 times,
Ugh.
50 times.
Mm.
And everywhere in Stockholm,
Right.
Rockford, Illinois, LA,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you toured with them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rode on the bus with them.
yeah. I mean, the coolest of the cool. Geddy Lee seems like.
Amazing guy. Baseball fanatic.
Oh, really?
Oh, big time. Even Geddy Lee is friends with Cliff Bernstein and Peter Midge.
Oh.
They don't manage him. Rush was always managed by Ray Daniels, and at one time a guy named Vic Wilson. But he and Cliff and Peter would go to spring training together.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're just baseball buddies.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
We got to go to see Geddy Lee with his book tour at the theater, and Jack Black was the host and interviewed him when his book just recently came out.
Yeah.
Really great.
I haven't read his book.
Oh, it's
Good?
incredible. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. His family story will blow you away. His mother and father, how they got together, is an incredible story. I will not say another word because it's insane.
I'm so backed up on my reading.
Oh, me too.
I'm reading a book about the last boat out of Shanghai now, and my next book is on my buddy Ed Eckstein's dad, Billy Eckstein. There's a book about him. I want to read that next. So I'm stacked up. I'm 3 deep.
And we need to, Paul Rappaport, his book is
yes.
insane.
Yeah. I've read that. Really good book. I would encourage anyone that wants to know some of the gory details. And I would, when I do a little radio show on KXOU, the Wildwood Flower Radio Hour, every Tuesday night, 7 to 9 p.m., 88.9 FM. Got to get a little plug in. But I had Rap on there, and I said, Rap, I don't know if I would have told some of this stuff because he told some down and dirty stuff,
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just getting into it myself, so
yep.
It's I just know a lot of the stories that he told on my show, and he only told the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
so he's got some incredible stories
regarding Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Pink Floyd story, but it doesn't. I didn't really. It's not a record company story. It's a concert story. When I worked for Alex Cooley in Atlanta in the early 70s, we promoted a Pink Floyd show at Symphony Hall, what's known as a soft seat venue. It's where the Atlanta Symphony performed. And it's very lush room. How we were able to get Pink Floyd in there is beyond me. But I think it's an 1,800 seater. I'm guessing that it was before Dark Side of the Moon, just before, probably in the 72 or 3, something like that. And I think they were working on either Adam Hart Mother or Uma Guma, and they were touring on that record. So I was just a worker working for this concert promoter, but I was supposed to be at the hall to supervise the load-in and the setup. And but it was a big thing in Atlanta because Pink Floyd had played there a couple of times before. The last time they played there, they played at the Atlanta Municipal Auditorium, opening for the Guess Who. And after Pink Floyd finished, half the people in the audience left. They were here to see Pink Floyd. They didn't want to see Guess Who. But anyway, we sold it out, and it was a big thing in the Atlanta cognoscenti. The drug-fueled Pink Floyd was a factor there. So we sold it out, and when I was there, I got there about 10 in the morning, and the tour bus pulls up, and all these roadies come piling out of the bus, with the normal T-shirts and boots and denim and leather and that kind of thing. And this one guy gets out of the bus, and he's got like red trousers and lace-up shoes and a yellow shirt, and he's wearing an ascot. And I was like, it's not the normal roadie look,
Right.
And I think his name was like Percy or something like that. And I was like, who's that guy? And he's like, oh, he's the lighting designer. So I was like, oh, okay. And so the way the equipment truck showed up, and they unloaded the equipment and put it on stage, and everybody back then, I'm assuming they still do, travel in these big cases, these animal cases. And they had the line of equipment, and then behind that, they stacked up the animal cases. And I noticed Percy he put this thing that looked like a trash can on the stack of ammo cases, and he poured this bottle of it was like a can of something into this trash can looking thing, and it had 2 electrical wires in it. And there was it's backstage, there's wires going everywhere, and I never thought anything about it. And so the show, the Atlanta community, they like doors open at 7, show started at 7:30. So everyone timed their drug intake to peak, to take off at like 8 and peak at about 9, And so the show starts, and the lights look great. Percy's doing a great job. And then I don't know, 30 minutes into the show, Pink Floyd starts playing one of their long, rhythmic, sort of dirge kind of or repetitious things. And
Comfortably Numb or something.
I don't know. And it's like, and it's just, song is building. And we're like 15, 20 minutes into the song, and the stage lighting went from like deep purple to kind of reddish to like orange to yellow. And when the song got to a crescendo, the lights went brilliant white, and Percy flipped the switch, and a flash pot. It's the first flash pot I've ever seen. I'd never seen one, and I'd worked in concerts for a couple of years by then. A flash pot. This ball of fire came out of this trash can and floated toward the ceiling of the Atlanta Symphony Hall, with the attendant smoke coming with it. And when and the band keeps playing, and the lights are like brilliant yellow at that point. And at the time, hopefully it's still the way, municipal facilities like that are connected to the local firehouse. So when the fire alarm went off, there were these lights down the side of the hall that were flashing. This was not anything that Percy had anything to do with. This was a fire alarm. Of course, everyone in the audience was comfortably numb.
Right.
When that flash pot went off, it set everyone back in their chair about 4 or 5 inches. And within 3 to 5 minutes, 6 fire trucks roll up, and these firemen get out of the fire trucks, and they put on their firefighting jackets, and they got their boots on, and they got axes and ladders and everything. And they walk down the middle aisle of Symphony Hall, and everyone in the audience thought it was part of the show,
No.
Not a person moved, nothing,
my God. They were comfortably numb.
They were absolutely comfortably numb. So the fire department and the band By the way, the band's still playing the same song,
Oh my
and
God. Yeah, they're long songs.
They never took a break. Yeah.
Right.
And after the show, the fire marshal, the manager of the hall, had me and Alex Cooley in the box office.
Mm-hmm.
He was not happy.
Oh boy.
Oh, he was not happy. I think we paid whatever money we made on the show. We paid it in a fine. I think we paid a $10,000 fine, and that was at a time when $10,000 was a lot of money.
Right, right.
So Rappaport got to ride on the Pink Floyd dirigible. You know, I got to see my first flash spot.
That is an interesting story. I love Pink Floyd.
Yeah, me too.
Oh gosh, love them.
And then Dark Side of the Moon came out, and the next time they played Atlanta Stadium, which was like a 60,000 seater.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah.
That's a big jump.
Big jump.
Yeah.
Big jump.
So moving on, I know that you had mentioned there's some stories you cannot share about Motley Crue.
Nope. One sort of cute one.
Okay.
But
I'll take it.
I was on the road with them for many, many shows, and none of that stuff is going to pass censorship here. They had a tour manager named Rich Fisher, super nice guy. He had to deal with these guys all the time. And Rich Fisher, when they would check out of a hotel, he would get the cleaning crew off to one side, and he'd go passing out $100 bills. And it's probably going to be a little bit of a mess down there. So
wow,
don't freak out. Just take care of it. Okay. A couple $100 to a cleaning person, they would take care of it. I will tell you that, again, getting back, they were on Elektra, and I was the head of promotion at Elektra, and Bob Krasnow, that name again, who I love, I absolutely positive, one of the most creative. I never had more fun in my life working for anyone. He was an absolute madman. Motley Crue had sold, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 million records, and he had never seen the band. And so I was like, come on, you got to go see the band.
Yeah.
And they were on this headline tour, and we were headed to a national sales meeting in Miami. So I said, look, instead of going straight to Miami, we'll stop, wherever the crew's playing, we'll stop and see the show. And then we'll go on to Miami the next day. And Bob was like, oh, God, okay. And so it was me, Tom Zutaut, the guy that signed them. I think Howard Thompson, was the head of A&R, was there, Doc McGee. We all flew down to Norman, Oklahoma. It's just south of Oklahoma City. I think there's a big college there. There's some big basketball place that seats, 20,000 people. And Bob was complaining the entire way there. Bob's a real cosmopolitan guy. He was like, it's New York and LA, and anything in the middle, he didn't want to know about it, And we got off the plane, and he was complaining the whole way into the hotel. He was like, Jesus Christ, everybody here's driving a pickup truck. What am I doing here? Bob, crazy, absolutely insane. This has nothing to do with the crew. This has to do with Bob, but this is a great story. We get to the hotel, and it's the nicest hotel in Oklahoma City. I mean, it's brand new. It's like a W hotel. It's nice,
Mm-hmm.
And I get to my room, and the phone's ringing, and Bob is taking the entire top floor of the hotel, and that's the way he rolled. He liked to spend money. He was in the presidential suite and had 4 bedrooms, and I was just in a room because I was just going to be there overnight. I wasn't entertaining or anything like that. And so the phone's ringing, and I pick up the phone, and he goes, "Don't unpack." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "We're leaving." I said, "Oh, Bob, we just flew from New York." He goes, "I can't stay in this room." I said, "Well, why?" He said, what are you talking about? This room has green carpet. I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I can't stay in a room with green carpet." I said, "Bob, don't leave. Just let me come up there." And he goes, well, you have to find us another place to stay. And I go, "Bob, I'm on my way up." I go up, and sure enough, there's green carpet there, and he's pacing back and forth. And I go, "Bob, trust me, this is the nicest hotel in town. And nothing we're going to move to is going to be better than this. And let me go downstairs and see what I can do about the carpet. I mean, it's carpet,
Okay.
wall to wall carpet. And so I go downstairs, I get the manager of the hotel. I said, look, got a problem upstairs. Is there any way? And he goes, what are you talking about? Change the carpet in the room? He said, that have to move all the furniture out and everything. I said, have you got anything you can just put over it? He goes, well, I have some, like these Persian rugs that I could put over. Perfect. So go back up to Bob's room. I go, Bob, they're coming up with some Persian rugs. I said, we're going to cover the green carpet. Oh
my God.
So,
Talk about bougie.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
So anyway, we go to we get in the limousine to go from Oklahoma City to Norman, and we get to this big basketball arena at the college there, and it's sold out. Every metalhead within 100 miles is there, and we drive through the parking lot, and about every other car there is a pickup truck, and Bob's like, what the hell is this? We're at a country show. He said, what am I doing here? And I go, Bob, your band is headlining here. The band that has sold 6 million copies is headlining here. Just let's go see the show. And so we go into this hospitality room, or as I call it, the hostility room. And the band's there, and they're beyond cordial. I mean, they know that he's uncomfortable. He's not, he's out of his element. He's not in New York or LA, and he's at a rock show. He's not an R&B show. And they were super nice to him. I mean, just unbelievable. So they go out to play. And so Bob and I, we got the all access pass, and we're walking around it, and we go outside into not where the band's playing, but into the foyer. And there's a huge merch table there.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that ran the merch at that show that night, I can remember his name. His name is Homeboy, and he wore overalls. I don't know how I remember this stuff. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. But Homeboy was there wearing overalls, and they were selling all this Motley Crue stuff. I mean, fingerless gloves,
right,
girls' panties, bras, T-shirts, jackets.
Mm-hmm.
Jackets are
leather.
$400, $500 for a jacket. And Homeboy was, when he would take the money, they had a huge cardboard box there, and he'd just throw the money in the cardboard box. And the money was just flowing out of this cardboard box. Bob looked at me and he goes, we got to get a piece of that.
Yeah, right.
I said, Bob, I don't think you're ever going to get a piece of that. And he said, well, we sure as hell are going to try. So Bob saw the light, Right. So we go backstage, and the band comes off stage, and they're like dripping wet and sweat, and the crowd's going crazy, and there's groupies in this. They had a special room for the groupies they call the dog pen. And there was a few little things that happened there that I can't talk about. But we get on the tour bus, and we're on the tour bus, and there are these professional strippers, and stark naked, not a stitch on. And it was just as normal as it is me sitting here talking with you. And by the way, everyone, she has her clothes on.
I do, thank God.
Well dressed.
Don't want to kill anybody.
Well dressed. And Bob looks at me, and these strippers, they're like doing acrobatics up and down the aisle of the bus. There's like a lounge in the back of the bus and a lounge in the front of the bus. And they're doing these flips and splits and everything like that. And Bob looked at me and he goes, is it this way every night? I go, yes, sir, every night. And I said, and you're getting the G-rated version of it. And so he goes, holy cow. He said, I got to come out on the road more often.
Well, and sans the green carpet.
Yes,
please.
yes.
Oh,
yes.
God, that is unbelievable. I don't know if the fans would think the same as me, But I would have thought that that would be, one of the main reasons why a band goes on tour because of the merch sales would be a, huge part of, what they garner in wages.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, merch sales, there's the cost of the merch, there's the cost of the merchandiser, and there's the venue, and then there's the band. It's normally like a 4-way split. At least that's the way it used to be. I don't know what it's like now. But they were making bank. And they were selling. By the end of the night, you can run a number of the merch sales and divide it by the number of tickets, and you come up with a cost per head or a purchase per head. And they were, I forget the numbers, but they were selling a lot of money. Everybody was buying a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And so quick and dirty, you could do, if they're getting 25% of that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's
And
interesting.
there was some manager, I forget who it was, but he fought the venues like crazy. I think it was Bruce Allen, who he was adamant. He would say, "Oh yeah, you're going to take 30%. Guess what? We're just not going to sell merch that night." And the venues would freak out.
Yeah, because the audience would freak out.
Yeah,
That's one of the half the reason of going to the concert. You want the official merch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very good friends with a guy named Terry Rhodes. I'm from Macon. Terry's from Macon. And he, at the time, was the head of contemporary music at ICM. And he says, look, you got to meet this. There's a kid in Nashville named Jack Emerson, and you got to meet him. And I go, why do I want to meet him? He said, he's going to do something. He said, I just trust me on that. And Terry's never steered me, ever. To this day, he's never steered me wrong. He said he manages this band called the Georgia Satellites.
Mm.
And so I said, the Georgia Satellites. And we passed on that band 3 times. Joel Katz, the recently deceased.
At Elecktra Records, he passed.
Yeah. We passed. Joel Katz had pitched him. Joel was a big music business attorney who just passed like 2 months ago.
Mm.
And Joe Sullivan in Nashville pitched him. And Butch Stone from Arkansas pitched him, and we passed. And so he goes, listen, you just need to meet Jack Emerson. So I was in Atlanta. I was the best man at my best friend's wedding. And I had on $5,000 worth of clothes. I had on, a Versace suit and Ferragamo shoes and Hermes ties,
Right.
I was dressed the part,
Mm-hmm.
and the Georgia Satellites were playing at a place called the Moonshadow, and Jack Emerson was going to be there. And so I was going to meet Jack Emerson, right? Not to see the Georgia Satellites. And so I show up. Well, the wedding happened at about 8 or 9 o'clock. I said good night and went over to the Moonshadow. So I go to the Moonshadow, and I'm standing at the bar. And this clapped out old Chevrolet pickup van pulls in, and these musicians get out and they start unloading equipment. And this kid, and I do mean a kid, he looked like he was 16, got out, and he made a beeline for me. And he said, "You're Mike Bone?" I go, "Yeah." He said, "I'm Jack Emerson." He shakes my hand. And I said, "Well, are you old enough to be in here?" And he goes, "Shh, don't tell anyone."
Oh my God.
And so anyway, we stand there and talk for a while. He said, "I'm going to get these guys set up and to play." And he said, "Don't leave." And I go, "I'm not going to leave. I'm staying and see the band play." And so he gets the band set up on stage. He comes back and we chat for a couple more minutes, and the band starts playing. And it's the normal rock and roll stuff. And the crowds, first of all, there's a lot of people. I got on $5,000 worth of clothes, and there's a lot of people in there that don't even have shirts on,
Uh-huh.
And so it's a T-shirt and jean crowd, and I stuck out like a sore thumb, and I looked like exactly what I was, a record company executive.
Mhm.
And 30, 45 minutes into the set, they played this song, "Keep Your Hands to Yourself." And my God, it was cataclysmic. I mean, the kids went crazy. People were tearing their clothes off. I mean, it's just like, holy cow, I've never seen it. It's rare to see that kind of crowd reaction to a song.
Mhm.
And so Monday morning, I go into the head of A&R's was a guy named Howard Thompson. And I go in his office and I said, "You need to send somebody to see the Georgia Satellites." And he goes, "We passed on that band." I said, yeah, I know we passed on that band several times, but I saw them, and somebody needs to go down there and see them play. Keep your hands to yourself. And so he goes, "Okay." So he sent this guy, Kevin Patrick, down, and Kevin came back and he was like, "You're right." He said, "We're signing the Georgia Satellites."
Wow.
And we signed the Georgia Satellites, and I think the version of Keep Your Hands to Yourself that we released was the demo version that we passed on 3 times. And it was a big hit.
Wow.
It was a big hit record. They sold, I don't know, 1 million. I know we had a platinum record, on the first record, and Rolling Stone, Best New Rock Band of the Year. They went out opening for Tom Petty, and I mean, it was great. It was great. You know, it's funny how things like that happen. It's all because of Terry Rhodes telling me I had to meet Jack Emerson, you know?
Right. And I think I could do a whole show just on who passed on what band.
God. Yeah.
I mean,
You can't be hurt by
right.
who you pass on. You can be hurt by who you sign, you know? So I understand that. I passed on Ozzy Osbourne one time.
Oh my gosh, Terry Fanning did as well. Recording him. He
Yeah,
said, and then he regretted it.
And the next record was Blizzard of Oz, and it sold 6 million copies.
Yes, yes. Ozzy was the absolute best. I got to meet him once, him and Sharon. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's so many people. Clive Davis passed on Tom Petty and the
Yeah.
Heartbreakers. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean any disrespect
No.
to that,
Look,
but
look.
Tell us a bunch of stories, if you have any, about your time at Elektra Records.
Well, Bob Krasnow, who passed on Metallica and then re-signed Metallica in 3 days. He was, look, I never had more fun in my life working for him. He was an absolute madman. But he got on an airplane one time on the American flight from LA to New York, the overnight flight. And he was seated next to a gentleman named Sherwin Bash. And Sherwin was a big time manager. He used to manage Andy Williams, and I think he used to manage the Carpenters too. And Bob was like old friends with him from the LA scene. And he said, "What are you working on?" He said, "I got this girl, Anita Baker." And Bob says, "Yeah, I love that record." And so he goes, "Well, you know, the record company's a little record company, and they haven't been paying us." And he said, "I'm really trying to get out of the deal." And Bob said, "I'll sign her." And Sherwin says, "Well, it's going to come with a lawsuit. They're going to sue." And Bob says, "I'll take the lawsuit."
Wow.
And so
Wow.
they made the deal to sign Anita Baker on that flight. I think it was American flight number 4. And I don't know, again, I don't remember these things, but Anita came out with her record, Rapture, which had a great album cover shot by my friend Carol Friedman. And we sold, I don't know, millions of them, millions and millions of them.
Mm-hmm.
But Anita I was friends with her, right? And I would always go and see her and go backstage. And she had a wardrobe case, and she wore the same dress every night, but she had it in all these pastel colors. She had a blue and a green and a yellow one, you know, but it was gathered around her hips. And I said, "Anita, why do you wear the same dress every night? It has this frill around your hips." I said, "You know, I probably shouldn't say this, but it makes your butt look bigger than it is." And she goes, "Mike Bone," she says, "you know your audience, and I know my audience." So I was like, "Okay."
That is hilarious.
Oh, God.
That is hilarious.
She
That
was
is
a
true.
hoot. She was a hoot.
Beautiful voice.
Oh my God. Amazing. Melt
Yeah.
me every time.
Yeah.
So I worked for Island for a while, and for Chris Blackwell. And, you know, we had U2 and Robert Palmer and a lot of reggae stuff. And we had an A&R guy in New York named Cookie Gonzalez, and he signed this very militant black band called the X Clan. And the X Clan was their fans had this like uniform that the red, the green, the black, they all talked about that. And I think those were the colors of the African National Congress. So the leader of the band name is Lumumba Carson. And Lumumba Carson's father was Sonny Carson. Sonny Carson was a Black Panther. They made a movie about Sonny Carson named The Education of Sonny Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And Sonny Carson managed his son's band, the X Clan. And look, I'm just a Southern boy from Macon, Georgia. I was scared to death of Sonny Carson.
Really?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm just the Black Panther,
Right.
and the guy went to jail, I mean, he was a convicted felon, and,
Did he look menacing or
no,
did he sound menacing?
not at all. Not at all. So the first meeting they came in, Cookie brought, Lumumba in. First of all, he named his son Lumumba Carson after Patrice Lumumba from the Congo. So, you knew it was kind of going to be a militant day, right?
Right.
And, so Sonny comes in and we have this meeting and the band leaves, Lumumba leaves, the A&R guy leaves, Cookie leaves. And Sonny's in my office and I said, Sonny, I got to tell you, I said, you scare the hell out of me. And so he goes, why? And I said, well, the whole Black Panther thing. And he goes, you got nothing to be afraid of. He said, we're on the same team. He said, I just want to make sure my son's band is taken care of. And I was like, okay, great. And from that point forward, we had an amazing relationship. Amazing. Sonny and I had an amazing relationship. So I used to live at 260 West Broadway. Island was at 4th and Broadway, right on top of the Tower Records store. So I was walking to work one day, and people in New York, at the time, people in New York would sell bootleg cassettes off of these little trays, and they'd have, I don't know, a couple hundred of them out there. And I was walking to work, and there was an X Clan bootleg that you could buy for, I think, $5 for a cassette. So I bought this cassette, and we had a meeting with Sonny, and I handed him this cassette, and I said, there you go. And he goes, why are you giving this to me? I said, take a look at it. And he opens it up. The little piece of paper is called the J card. He pulls the J card out, and he unfolds it and pulls the cassette out, and he looks at it. He said, what's the big deal? I said, that's a bootleg. He said, a what? I said, a bootleg. He said, what do you mean a bootleg? I said, I didn't make that cassette. Somebody out there made that cassette, and they're selling it on the street. He goes, what do you mean? And I said, let's put it this way. You're not getting paid for it. He goes, what? And I said, yeah. He said, where'd you get this? And I took him over to my window, and I said, look down there about 2 blocks. You see that guy standing on the corner with the card tables there? I said, he's selling bootleg cassettes. I said, and you don't get paid on these cassettes. And he goes, can I use your phone? And I go, sure. So he picks up the phone off the desk and he makes a phone call. He turns away from me and I hear him whisper, West Broadway and Astor. And so I go, okay. So we sit and we're talking about a marketing, like a tour support budget. And about 10 minutes later, sirens.
Oh my gosh.
Go. And I go, we go to the window and the guy's cassettes are all over the street. Some guy's wailing.
Oh my God. No, what did you do?
So Sonny goes, he won't be selling bootleg X Clan cassettes tomorrow. So I was like, okay. A week or two go by and the X Clan without Sonny, they show up at the office one day and the tour bus is parked out front. And Lumumba and several of his followers wearing these matching dashinkis with hats, and they have these hand-carved staffs, and they go, "We need to have a meeting with you." And I go, "Well, absolutely, come in and sit down." No, we need to have it on neutral territory. And I was like, "Neutral territory?" I said, "This is your record company." No. We need to meet on the tour bus. And so I was like, okay. So, the island office was right on top of Tower Records, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tour bus is parked right there on 4th Street. And I have to walk down this gauntlet of these fans. And they've got these big sticks, like 6, 7 feet, hand carved. And they've got all these African skulls on them and stuff like that. And they're hitting the ground with these staffs, as they call them, and then go zoom, zoom, zoom. And I thought, oh my God, these guys they're gonna beat this cracker from Georgia. They're gonna beat him to death.
Oh my God.
So,
maybe a beheading. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So me and Cookie get on the bus, and there's some they're not happy about the sound system on the road, and I was like, I got nothing to do with the sound system on the road.
Oh my God, no. That was it?
That was it. That was it. They're like, the sound system's terrible and blah, 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 blah. I said, well, change the sound system. Fire them. Hire a new sound system on the road. Well, it's going to be an extra $500 a week. I go, done. You got it. And at that point, the guy driving the bus starts the bus up. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to take me somewhere up in Harlem and drop me off, and I'm going to get killed or something.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
Wow.
It all worked out. It cost me $5,000 or something. But then when I get off the bus, I got to walk this gauntlet of about, 20, 25 people, men and women carrying the zoom, zoom.
Wow. That must have been terrifying.
Well, at the time it was. Right now it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh my God, what an incredible story.
Yeah.
And how long did they go on?
They went on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, Sonny died, and really sadly, Lumumba died. He had some sort of infection. I forget what it was, but neither one of them. But the records, if you go back and listen to the X-Clan records,
Mm-hmm.
they still stand up. They're very good records.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to listen. I've never heard of them.
The X-Clan. Very good.
So on my next phase of the show, we do some hidden history fan questions.
Okay.
Are you ready for some fan questions?
Sure.
And we may have touched upon it, but you can certainly revisit it. So one kind of silly question came up, which I thought was really funny. And it was from Chopsy Haberman. He's in Thousand Oaks, California. He asks this question: did Johnny really get his face slapped?
If Phil Lynott wrote it, it definitely happened. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Philip was quite a good turn of tune for things that are happening.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I will move on to the next question.
Okay.
From Teddy Swift in Urbana, Missouri. What was it like to mingle with such legends as Gary Moore and Phil
Lynott?
What was your standout moment?
I didn't hang out with Gary that much because he was one of those fill-in guitar players when Brian Robertson got hurt and then left the band. With Philip, every day with Philip was great. He was such a nice guy, such a creative guy. It was so great to see him at the front of the stage. When they would do Jailbreak, and it was just exhilarating. He was just that kind of performer. The first time they came to tour on Jailbreak, he didn't have the right visa. So it was on a Saturday, and there was a music business lawyer that took care of visas that was based in Buffalo for some strange reason, I guess because it was close to the Canadian border. And we'd use this guy. He said, look, you need to take him over to this office. And It was on a Saturday or something like that, because I was at the office and I had on shorts and flip flops or something, and he said, "Yeah, can you take me over to this immigration office?" And I was like, "Not dressed like this." And so I said, "I got to go change clothes." I said, "Come on, we'll take a cab to my place and we'll take a cab back." And so he came to my apartment, and so I got dressed in somewhat more conservatively, and I'm looking at him, and he's got on, he looked like a rock star, and I'm looking at him, and he's got on a Nazi youth pin,
Oh my God.
and I was like, "Phil, that's not a," he goes, "What is this?" He didn't even know what it was, and so I said, "That's not gonna cut it," and he goes, "What's the problem?" I said, "That's a Nazi youth pin." He goes, "It's just a red and black pin." And I was like, "No, no, no." I said, "I don't know who we're meeting with." I said, "But if they should happen to be Jewish, you're not getting into this country." He goes, "Oh, here."
Oh my God.
He just took it off.
No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
Remove. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, they were, I loved working with them, and it was great to see them go from 0 to platinum,
Yeah. Then Lizzy is a great band.
Oh, yeah.
Great band. The album Jailbreak is incredible.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
It was a good album. I think I re-added it to my playlist because of this. And I was like, oh God, I got to add that again because they're so great.
Go back and listen to Wild One off of the Fighting album. That's the one that was the lead in to The Boys Are Back in Town.
I will.
Really good song.
Joe Baker from Los Angeles, California, and Jill Rebecca, they want to know what was the inspiration for the song Jailbreak, if you know it, and the bar story in Boys Are Back in Town. Did that really happen?
I can assure you that the bar story happened. I don't know where it happened, but I guarantee you it happened. I don't know the inspiration. You'd have to ask the writer that, and I wasn't on the creative side of the band. I was on the marketing side of the band, but if Phil wrote it, it happened.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That's insane. I love those songs. Well, I guess we can wrap this up today, Mike.
Great.
I mean, it
Thank you
was
so much.
an incredible interview. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have you on the show. And thank you for joining me on Hidden History of Rock and Roll. You can find me on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, iHeartRadio.
We hope you enjoyed the latest installment of the Hidden History of Rock and Roll. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on all the podcast platforms. Thanks for listening to the Hidden History of Rock and Roll with your host, Tiffany Scott.